Hello, all you hopeful college prospects out there. We've got a great segment for you today. We've got Coach Bowles from Cleveland Community College down in Shelby, North Carolina. It's a brand spanking new program, and we're really excited to have him on the program, our program here today, because Western North Carolina has been desperate for some junior college baseball for years now, and we're very excited to support his program and allow him to speak on, not only his school but his baseball program, what he's got in mind for building his program, the Yetis. So, Coach, thanks so much for being on the program today.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
All right, Coach. First question I got for you. I was glad to hear that you're a Maryland guy. I'm from Maryland myself, and I know you've been around a little bit in the baseball world. So, I guess start off by sharing your background, your baseball story, and what led you to Cleveland Community College.
Yeah, probably the short and sweet of it. It kind of all went into after I was done playing. Want to get into coaching, so I went to the high school route. I emailed every high school I could within like the Anne Arundel County area, which is around Annapolis, Maryland. Ended up landing at St. Mary's High School, which is a Catholic school in Maryland. Was there for 2 years with Lee Schwarzenberg. He came from Cardinal Gibbons, where if you know who Babe Ruth is, he played at St. Mary's Industrial School for the boys, and that's where Cardinal Gibbons used to be at. After 2 years there, I got the head coaching job at Annapolis High School. I took over a program that hadn't won a game in over 72 games. We had the longest lose streak in the country. We won a few games, not many. The town's really big on basketball, football. So just try to get baseball back, even at the youth level, was huge. In my time there, my short time, like 4 years, we got a youth program up and running, and we started, actually being competitive for that area, which is good. New coach there has done a great job. Moving forward, I went to the JUCO level to Prince George's Community College in 2016. They won the most games they've ever had in the history of Prince George's since the 80s. Next year, we got to actually recruit some guys outside the state and outside the county of Prince George's County. We went from a 16-win team to a 33-win team in a bid to the College World Series. The summer of 17, I went out to Omaha, Nebraska, coaching the Corn Belt League, which is one of the few summer leagues that's still up and running for this summer. After that summer league was over, I got a pitching coach, recruiting coordinator job at Bethany College out in Kansas. Was there for about 3 weeks. Our head coach took a job at ABCA, Andrew Bartman. Jeremy Kennedy comes in from Kaiser, Florida. Kennedy sits me down. He knows I want to be a head coach, and within 2 days, I'm out at Dartmouth College. Had no idea where it was and thought it was in Massachusetts. And I was packing my bags from Winsboro, Kansas, driving my little car all the way out to Hanover, New Hampshire. So I got to spend a year in the Ivy League. After that, went back to Maryland to Prince George's, was the assistant AD and the assistant coach, resumed my title, recruiting coordinator, and all duties assigned. I did a little bit of everything at Prince George's. Was there in last season, and then went to the Cape. Was in the Cape Cod League, was the bullpen coach for the Brewster Whitecaps, and you'll probably get to see some of our guys tonight, tomorrow get drafted. We got 6 guys that are on the board, and pretty excited about that. And then in June, I got offered the job. I left the Cape for less than 48 hours, drove from Massachusetts to Baltimore, took a 2-hour nap at my girlfriend's house, kept on driving, and turned around and came back to the Cape. I was back before the end of a doubleheader on a Sunday, and I left on a Friday. And fast forward, I officially got down here in September. So it's been crazy from about 2015 to now, kind of where I've been at.
You've obviously gained some experience at a lot of different levels, and I'm sure you're excited to bring that to the Yetis. So that leads me into my next question is, this 2021 is going to be the school's first ever baseball season, and it's got to be really exciting to build from the ground up. So fill us in on, some of the initiatives, the recruiting, and some of the gains that your program has already made before a pitch has even been thrown.
First off, by far probably have the coolest mascot in all of college athletics with the Yeti. So that's awesome. It's big, big to our president, Dr. Hurst, Dr. Jason Hurst. He's from Chipola College. He's a Talladega, Alabama native. Dr. Nady, our athletic director, and everybody else here in the administration has been huge. But recruiting, I want to find a lot of the good local kids that were still uncommitted. Now, remember, I was behind the 8 ball recruiting, so we were fortunate to find 8 of the, in my opinion, some of the best guys that were still on the board. We got them signed, and then I'll be honest, I went outside and kind of outside of radius. And I mean, we got guys coming in from 12 different states, as far as the state of Washington down to Florida. I got guys coming out from Louisiana, Texas. They're all over the place. And it's just connections we've had. But, we don't have baseball. So, like, that's one thing starting this whole process, just, buying uniforms. We're getting ready to break ground on our brand new stadium, getting fields off campus, anything you could think about, starting a booster club. A lot of things, and a lot of people here at the college had never been a part of athletics before. And it's just an exciting time. Between Shelby, North Carolina, Cleveland County, and then the surrounding counties, it's huge for the whole area.
A few years ago, they had a JUCO program out here where we live, and I guess technically it'd be Flat Rock, North Carolina. It was Blue Ridge Community College, but I think they shut it down in 2012 after having a lot of success.
They were good.
They were very good, but, I guess that leads to my next question. I know you've been around the whole country here coaching, but do you know how desperately we needed a junior college out here in Western North Carolina?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, to Coach Pate up at Caldwell, he actually was there to start the program at CVCC, Catawba Valley, and then Coach Roselle was there now. I mean, us three, it's pretty much it. And then I feel like Cleveland County is kind of the key to Western Carolina when you're getting into the mountains, but there's nothing else. I mean, we out here really needed something. And that's one thing too, like, and I'll be honest with you, we really did get to touch everywhere because we didn't get to see a lot of baseball in the springtime. And a lot of the kids out there in the West, they don't play a lot, in the summertime. In the fall, they play football. So, we were really hoping the springtime to really, lock in the end of March and early April, and then COVID hit. So that was tough on that end.
Usually I try to ask the coaches, what is your favorite moment, as a coach at your program so far. But, obviously that's a tough question right now since you haven't thrown a pitch yet. But maybe, I can phrase it this way, as you've started to recruit players, as you've started to break ground on your new field, like, has there been one moment that is really kind of elevated above the rest that has got you excited about your program?
I mean, every day coming to work, I mean, I'll be honest with you, everybody here is balled in. From the fact that we're allowed to have face-to-face recruiting again, and it's all member institution oriented. So if your school allows you to do it, we can do it. I had 2 recruits on campus this weekend, and our golf carts were remarkable. They were spoutless, and our HR guy came in here and he power washed them over the weekend in the morning on Saturday because he knew I had recruits on campus. It's just the total buy-in, but kind of getting to like a proud moment. Obviously, I don't have the moments from guys yet because they're not here. It's cool seeing, the pictures of guys when they sign their LOIs and guys when they post all that stuff. That's cool, but it's the relationships afterwards. It's guys when we get phone calls and we actually get to go to graduations. And I've been coaching long enough to where I got some kids that have babies now and they're married, and I mean they're kind of further on the process than I am because I mean I'm not married. I don't have any kids, so it's cool to see that. It's also cool to see guys when they get their first job. Our left fielder at Dartmouth called me with a job in Boston. I mean, he was excited, and one of our starting pitchers up there, guy into med school, and he's excited. But then you get on the whole other spectrum of guys I've coached. You go, tonight and tomorrow night could be really special for some of these guys that we had in the Cape, which I only had them for a couple months, but just the relationships I build just with guys, I'm really looking forward to that here, out in the Yeti Nation.
All right. So, heading into, the fall, you'll be starting your practices. So I guess my next question is really, do you have an idea of how your practices are going to be structured? Like, what are some important training regiments or lifting programs or film analysis, analytics, whatever you want to throw in there? Like, how do you see your kind of like your day-to-day structure for a baseball player at Cleveland?
So we're a little different than other JUCOs. When you get here, our first team meeting, we take them to the local physical therapist here at Cleveland County Physical Therapy. Dr. Miller, who has been around the block, he's been with the Chicago Cubs, the San Francisco Giants, and a couple other organizations. They're going to put these guys through a complete bioscan. Once we get their results back, we go in and we individualize their strength and conditioning program because, of course, everybody's different. Not saying, not what other schools do is the best thing, but the fact that we have a coach on staff that has a CSCS certification that I can't pass up. I mean, I have the opportunity to do something that most schools can't do. So the way average practice will look in the fall is we don't lift in the morning. That was something I've seen in other programs. Guys just drowsy through the day. By the time they get to practice, they're dragging. And their muscles, I mean, let's be honest, most kids don't sleep until after midnight. I mean, they're going to play PS4 or Xbox. So, I mean, we take that into account. So classes will be between 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. I'll have times that I'll have a matrix put together. When guys are out, that's when they'll have their indie group stuff. Times they get hit, guys can meet with us, in my office and all that. After 2:30, they'll have about 30 minutes to get to our meeting. We have meetings every day at 3 o'clock before practice. And basically all that is kind of going over everything for practice, just so it's not kind of, hey, we're at practice, let's talk to the dugout. We can get that done at the school. That allows me to go through any video stuff we're doing, just to kind of – a lot of these guys are visual learners, and it makes it so much easier when you have a lot of guys in the fall coming to explain what you're trying to do. The night before, they get a group meet text, and that's going to line up their whole day, kind of just a snapshot of the day, especially if I'm a two-way guy, which we have a lot of them, just so they know what they're doing. They can prepare. A lot of guys mentally, I hate when guys say it's a new generation and all that, but we got to conform to them, and we got to make them play the best. So when it comes to practice, we don't call it practice. It's something I did steal from Vanderbilt. They call it practice training. It's kind of like Allen Iverson, when he said, practice. I mean, we're talking about practice. We don't talk about practice. It's a training. It's getting us ready, not just for the spring, but it's getting ready for May and, competing for championships. So that's kind of how we are. And then on top of that, our fall schedule. I mean, we play a very competitive fall schedule. Probably not the brightest thing to do as a first-year coach, but, I mean, we lined up some of the best Division II schools we could between Catawba, North Greenville, Lenore-Ryan, Lander. We have a really tough schedule. Erskine as well, Belmont Abbey. And then on top of that, we got ETSU, Gardner-Webb, and Campbell. We're going to their JUCO jamborees. So, I mean, we did a really good job with our schedule. I mean, that's it's just one of those things to where it's very structure-oriented. The weight room, when it comes into – I do a lot of stuff after practice, so we structure our weight training and all that afterwards. It's a little different in most places. I contacted some – it was about 5 to 6 coaches that have won national titles in the last couple of years, and that's how they kind of structure theirs. And I hate to say it, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Just because everybody lifts in the morning doesn't mean we have to too. We'll, make it work. Same thing with study hall. And we'll do that in the evening. So that'll give me time to actually see the guys a little bit more and all that. 5 hours of study hall. Again, it's more than most places. Usually most places are 3. Some people are over. The goal is a 3.5 GPA, team GPA to start out. And we're real high academic when it comes to having tutors on hand and just having that support network here at Cleveland. We videotape everything too, and that's one thing I didn't get into. We have the ability, and most schools do too, because everybody's, most people have a smartphone. But between our iPads and all that, every bullpen is going to be videoed, every at bat, between inter squads and, even during BP. And that's just because, I can't be everywhere, our coaches, but we're sitting down, especially towards the end of the fall, we're talking about individual players. It gives us time to actually really look at these guys and make evaluations. And when they're coming to sit down with us, like, we can actually show them what they're doing or show them, and here's why we make a decision on, who we're taking on whatever weekend. It's not high school, in some programs, just because you read a program that was like, XYZ, it doesn't matter. This is how I've done it in my other programs. It's worked. The model works. But I think technology is good. It's not going away. I mean, we have Rapsodo and all that. I don't go crazy and trying to kill these kids with over-analyzing them. But the thing with baseball right now is that, we got to make this game fun, and we need to make it to where these guys have the ability to, get to know a little bit more. I think that's where the cool technology comes into play, because we can take these guys in the computer lab and really show them what they're doing. But it allows them to ask questions and we have that kind of engagement too, which I like.
All right, now let's get into recruiting a little bit. It's got to be exciting recruiting for a new program. So let's start with the physical tools first. Is there a certain tool set that you're looking for in recruits? What type of ball players seem to fit best with your program and the strategies that you're going to try to implement?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, it's kind of one of those things to where the average person looks at junior college and they think, well, I'm not a D1 kid, I'm not a D2 kid. I could definitely go JUCO. It's not the truth anymore. I mean, you got to be toolsy. I mean, obviously everybody wants, certain people do different things. We run, so obviously we're going to want guys that can run. I listen to Southern Maine. He's similar, kind of the what he wants, but at the same time, certain positions, I like athletic guys up the middle. I've always been like that. I like having a fast outfield, and I like having power that I'll take a guy with the average bet knowing that he's going to put some weight on once he gets here. But just being able to see kind of having a vision to see the just, right now in high school and seeing what, the maturation process does. Is that guy going to get bigger? Is that guy, does he know the game? If I see a guy who's able to take, instead of a stand-up double, he was able to take, extra bag, or he's smart, he's able to read outfielders, stuff like that we don't see in game. I was having this conversation with a local high school coach actually about his son, and that's the one thing right now. His son has actually just started that growing process, but he's a 2021. And they're really going to get hit hard with the COVID. So when it comes to the recruiting process. So for a guy like him, if you don't watch him play, you don't see the tools. Like he knows the game, and that's his big tool.
All right. So now we talked about the physical tools. This is something I don't think kids put a lot of time into thinking about, but I mean, just through my experience, like I do believe that this is the most important tool. It's that sixth tool. That's where kids, I believe, separate themselves. So can you elaborate a little bit on some of the characteristics that you look for in your recruit that have nothing to do with baseball, more the mental and the educational aspects?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the educational is huge. I think it's a given. If a kid has a high GPA, we can sell them to a 4-year school. I mean, I look for that factor too. I mean, the guys that we recruit, I mean, I have over 12 guys right now that have over a 3.75 coming out of high school. So the fact that I can sell those guys a little bit easier, guys, when they can have a conversation with the coach without looking at their cell phone, you'd be surprised. I mean, it's one of those things. Guys that have a conversation without their mom or dad answering their questions for them, or looking to their mom and dad for the answer. I saw that when I was at Dartmouth, just sitting in on interviews with guys. It's different now. I mean, it's not their – I mean, I hate to say it, you don't want to coddle them, but it's really not their fault. It's just the nature of the beast now. I mean, we've enabled a lot of guys to be able to not communicate well. That's why, I feel that the program's a little different. I do have a cell phone policy when it comes to practice and games, but when we're on the road and we go out to dinner, we won't have cell phones. And that's just because, in the past I've seen it to where you may get like a little old lady comes up and asks where the team's from, but you got, them AirPods in your ear and kids aren't listening. So it's just not good for the program. But it helps the guy out later on in life too. I think some of the tools that me and you learned, growing up, if I can give a little bit of that to a guy, it'll help him. But, getting back to the characteristics, stuff like that, one of my assistant coaches was in the military for 25 years in the Marines. And, he goes to, in 14 of them were spent as a recruiter. One of the things he looks for, guys come to the ballpark ready. And that doesn't mean they're walking up in their shorts. I mean, we see a lot of showcase and travel teams. They're sitting in the, on the bleachers and all that waiting to play, and they're in shorts and slides. And that's cool. We get it. But, when guys are pulling up to the ballpark, like they're ready to play. And the same thing with us. I mean, I hate guys that, they get to the dugout, now they're changing. Oh, you could have done that before you got here. So it's little stuff like that. I mean, maybe I'm picking a little bit too much, but it's one of those things. I think it kind of it makes the kid more well-rounded too. It makes him, kind of a blue-collar guy ready to go to work and lock in and check in.
You got into it a little bit earlier. You got kids coming from all over the country. I think that's awesome. I guess my question is, give me a more detailed look at what that looks like. you will be recruiting in North Carolina, obviously, but
Oh, yeah.
how does that process look, and how do you find those guys that are either in state or out of state? Like, I'm sure that process looks a little different for each.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a little different than other college coaches because I'll jump in my car and go pretty much anywhere out of my own pocket. I really don't care. So when I got the job in the fall, I was just working on a stipend. I was living off my savings account. So I literally jumped in the car and just made a whole circle around the U.S. Went back and forth to Florida a couple times because, as you know, in North Carolina, they don't play high school baseball in the fall. You got to go to showcases and all that. It sucks, after especially after November, we were getting closer to ABCA and all that in January. I did that big trip. I went out to a showcase in Chattanooga, went up to Nashville, and just kept on making a big circle coming back around. But not every coach can do that, and I'm not going to do that every year. But it's mostly word of mouth. I mean, from coaches, NCSA, field level guys like yourself, they all help. But it's the networking and it's the relationships I have with guys. Do I got bad taste in my mouth from some guys in the past? Yeah. Doesn't mean I don't answer their phone call. We just might look at the guys a little bit differently. And you hate to say that, but we're all human, and that's just, it is what it is. And basically being able to communicate what you're actually looking for as a college coach is huge too. Even though I want a 20/20 arm. Well, everybody's got a guy who can throw a baseball. Do you want a guy who can compete against LSU Eunice, or do you got a guy who can just run it out there? I mean, that's the difference. I mean, I think a lot of guys just don't, they don't communicate with the guys they're dealing with. But locally, it's the high school travel coaches. I mean, I can get in my car and go, out to Western Carolina. I can get out to Mecklenburg County, Gaston, Cleveland, Rutherford County, Union, Lincoln. So with all those counties, McDowell, that we're all close or, close enough to touch, I get to all those. But now, it's not just the travel coaches now too, or the high school coaches, it's the pro scouts. I mean, they're out there too, having those relationships, but it's trusting in guys. I mean, and once your circle, a lot of people talk about their inner circle. Once you got the guys that you can trust, you're over the years get good players. That's who you're going to keep going back to.
This question might be just getting back to, you being a new program. And we've probably touched on a few of these things, but, to kind of separate, Cleveland from some of the other JUCOs, explain to some of these prospects out there, like, what do you think is specifically unique and appealing about Cleveland to a student athlete?
Yeah, and I mean, it's more than just, go and play JUCO baseball. It's more than just, I'm going to play for, cool mascot. I mean, it's the fact that you're going to get a coaching staff that's going to work tirelessly for them. We don't play, and that's the difference. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're going to push the individual student athlete to, to their fullest. But at the same time, at the end of the day, like, if we don't succeed and guys don't move on, it doesn't help our program. It doesn't help our staff as a whole. When it comes to that, I think guys have to look at it a little bit more too. And I know I talk about coaching staffs all the time, but you got to go to a place that it feels like home. And, this is one of the first places I've been to as a coach. I can honestly say, like, I do feel at home in Shelby, North Carolina. Every place you go to, from, going to a restaurant, going to Shelby Cafe to, Bridges Barbecue or Pleasant City. I mean, every place you go to, it's, there's a reason, Shelby, North Carolina is called, it's the city of pleasant living. I mean, it's an awesome place to be. We're close enough to Charlotte to where if you need that city feel, and Charlotte's one of the fastest growing cities in America. I mean, we're 42 minutes from the airport and about 55 to an hour from downtown Charlotte to get to a Panthers game. So it's not bad. I also like the fact that we're right off of 85 to where recruiting there's 18 D1s in North Carolina. Everybody wants to go D1. Nobody looks at the trickle-down effect that's happening right now with COVID. I talked to a guy the other day that he's never had a four-year school talk to him, but he's going to go play for Georgia. And I get that, or I'm going to go play for Mike Fox at UNC, and Mike Fox don't know who you are. So that's the whole thing too, that we're honest with these guys. I'm not going to lie to every kid. Not every kid's going to play D1, but the fact that, go take a look at Keystone, College up in Pennsylvania. Like, I don't care. I mean, they'll that Division III school, NCAA, will beat up on a lot of schools. It's just, we don't look at that as a whole. We don't look at the overall school as a whole either. You got to look at your support network. If I'm gone, do you still want to be there? And that's one thing too, where I think guys need to take in a look when they're looking at Cleveland. Everybody here is going to help you, and everybody has open arms to do whatever they can for you.
Yeah. Let's I just ad-libbed a question here, and this is something I've always tried to preach to kids is unlike college football or basketball, baseball is not a perfect hierarchy. You're exactly right. I mean, like Kutztown and Westchester and Shippensburg, I mean, those are really good D2s up there.
Well, that whole PSAC is nasty.
Yeah. And even down in like you start looking at those academic D3s, like was it Trinity up in Connecticut, Emory down in Georgia. I mean, there's legitimate programs that could beat up on some of those northern D1s. So let's elaborate on that a little bit. Like, explain that hierarchy. How does talent end up in certain places? How does it, you might not go into school throwing 90, but you find a place that'll help you develop those tools. So explain that hierarchy a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, look at track record. Look at guys that have gone there in the past. I mean, that's your biggest tool is looking at former rosters and guys that, maybe you knew because they were teammates or they were, opposing players of yours. And maybe that kid was an average kid. And, well, he just wound up playing for, Coach Godwin over at ECU. How did that happen? Well, his program had an actual throwing program, or they actually worked with hitters or what have you. I mean, those are your cliff notes to kind of what you need to look at. I mean, the track record, the past programs I've been to, obviously at Prince George's, we sent guys to 4-year schools. The fact that between myself and my whole coaching staff, we've been at every level. So that's the cool thing, and it's not that we know everybody. I think that's the difference that people say, well, I have a big network. I know a lot of people. Well, if nobody knows you, but you know a lot of people, it doesn't matter. It's who knows you that matters. So I think that's kind of the big token too, having a coach that has the ability to actually pick up a phone. A lot of these guys won't pick up a phone for a kid anymore. I've heard coaches go, well, that kid can't play at, XYZ school. Well, call up and find out what are they looking for so that kid knows, okay, well, I throw 84. Well, he's looking for somebody that's 88 or whatever. And that's what these kids need to hear. But when it comes to kind of like all overall, this, COVID's changed everything. And if anybody's listening to this and hears me ramble on, like, you have to have a plan. If you're 21 or younger and no one's talked to you right now, JUCO's got to be an option. And if it's not, and if you really don't have JUCOs, and I've told this to kids and even my athletic director has told me, like, you're really telling guys that, look at a post-grad school. And that's one thing that, I've had a parent go, well, post-grads are expensive. Yes, I know. Well, if your kid is like myself, I graduated when I was 17, you got to think outside the box. I mean, in Lincoln County, we got Combine Academy. No, I'm sorry, that's Rutherford, Lincolnton. So you got Combine Academy, you got Scotland campus up in Pennsylvania. I mean, they're all over the place, but you got to see what the right fit for you is too. You also got to go to a place where if you're going to spend money, you got to play. And that's not going to count against you, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. You literally need to kind of look at where the best place that you're going to fit and it's actually going to make sense for you.
I think this is always an interesting question for, junior college. Kids will start looking into the recruiting process and realize that most junior colleges don't have on-campus housing. So I guess my question is, does Cleveland have on-campus housing? If not, like, what is your plan to help some of your baseball players find housing?
So good question. So, and that's right. So, majority of the colleges, especially North Carolina JUCOs, they're off-campus housing. We're a Division II junior college, means we can't offer housing. So how that looks and the way we get around that, just like any other Division II school, we can offer housing as a student life. Like, this is what housing is available in the local Cleveland County area. Between apartments and housing, we're fortunate that we have a partnership with Gardner-Webb University that's here in our county. We have there's a dormable campus we can open up to our students, not just baseball players, but students in general. And then We have another facility. There was an old college that was here in Cleveland County that we've opened up to all students to apply for housing as well. So that's through them. We give the parents and the players options of housing. And I hate to say it's up to them. We're not allowed to kind of set up and all that kind of stuff because we don't have the housing on campus. We love to be a Division I school. We love it to where, the Chipotles of the world down in Florida and places like that, to where you have the housing, you have everything set up. But when you have housing and you have all that, it comes more headaches as well. But if a parent's listening to this, the biggest thing I take is just making sure the guys and even parents, when they're picking housing, at least they know what area they're getting into. So how far away from campus it is and kind of all that kind of stuff. And you look into your food too. So when I send out a email out to the parents, I break everything down. What the average cost here in Cleveland County is. You got to factor in your food and all that kind of stuff. And, if you're going to bring a car, here's how much it's going to cost if you live in this part of Cleveland County. Because you go to one side of Cleveland County, you drive 20 minutes to get to campus. You go to one side, you be living in an apartment right beside campus. It just depends on what a guy is. But I give options, and I give different price options too. We're not going to force a kid that he has to live in a $3,500 a semester option. There's other options. I want to make this affordable as possible for any kid that, has to get off campus housing.
Being a Division II, I know you guys can have scholarship money.
Yep.
Beyond athletic, I guess my first question will be, what does scholarship money look like for Cleveland right now? And then beyond that, I always tell kids first thing, get a FAFSA in. Got to get your FAFSA in. But beyond that, are there any other ways that recruits can look to save money attending?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is FAFSA is huge. So, and that's part of our application process. You have to fill out FAFSA. And then parents who, if this is their first child going through this or they haven't gone through college, like my parents, you got to go off your 2018, taxes right now. So once that's in, what will happen is, if you need to make an adjustment, you can make an income adjustment. I know some parents out there have lost their jobs. Once their FAFSA was in from 2018, if let's say they got into Cleveland, you can go to the financial office and get that adjustment done. That'll see kind of where you're at right now. But with us, we're a little different starting out. We don't have all 24 full scholarships. We have 24 LOIs. So, but we're at 10 full in-state, and then we're 10 partials. In-state tuition is $2,400 for the whole year, $1,200 a semester, and then out-of-state, it's $8,200, $4,100 a semester, $8,200 for the whole year. But there are academic scholarships. I'll be honest with you. It's one of the things that I've been working with our foundation here at Cleveland Community College to try to make it a little bit accessible. It's only been accessible for North Carolina and in-county residents. They just had a vote last month, and we've got it open up to everybody now, besides ones that specifically say like Cleveland County or North Carolina residents. The other thing too, if you're out there, not even if you're not coming to us at Cleveland Community College, look at delegate scholarships, look at congressional scholarships. I mean, you're doing a disservice if you don't try to grab free money. Myself, I got a delegate and a congressional scholarship. Wasn't mean I was the brightest kid in high school. I by no means was. But the fact that I had the ability to write an essay, and it was the same essay. I kept the same essay for like 4 or 5 different scholarships I won. If you got the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, any type of nonprofit you could think of, apply to their scholarships. It's literally free money at most of these places because guys, and if you're listening, most guys out there, you guys don't apply for scholarships. There's so much out there, and every state's different, but there's too much resources out there to not be able to find scholarships.